You know those nights where nothing major is supposed to happen? The kind where you're just killing time, maybe nursing a beer, talking shit with a friend? Yeah, this started as one of those. Danny and I had been coworkers for about 6 months. He worked in the shipping bay of the warehouse where I did logistics, different parts of the operation. But we saw each other every day. And somehow, despite his energy drink and Red Bull personality and my quieter vibes, we clicked. I think it started because I helped him fix the loading dock software when no one else gave a damn, and from there, we just hung out. We weren't close, not in the talk about your dreams kind of way, but close enough. We'd shoot the breeze during breaks, play pool on Fridays, even worked out together twice before he admitted he hated the gym but liked not looking like a fat ass. He was funny, rough around the edges, and kind of a mystery when it came to dating. Always talked about girls but never actually seemed to be with any. I didn't press. Some guys are just private. And besides, he always threw out the word straight like it was some kind of badge, usually in dumb jokes. So when he invited himself over to my place one Friday night with a 6-pack of cheap beer and a half-eaten gas station burrito, I didn't think much of it. "It's either this," he said, collapsing onto my couch, "or watching my roommate doing some dirty things through the thin-ass wall again. Dude's like a damn woodpecker." I snorted. "Glad I was your upgrade." He cracked open a beer and tossed one to me. "Be honored." We started talking about work, same old drama. I had a new supervisor breathing down my neck. Danny had almost thrown a crate at a forklift operator who called him bro one too many times. Then the conversation drifted like it always did. Life, rent, music. About halfway through his second beer, he got quiet. "You ever think about how weird it is that we never talk about real shit?" he asked, staring at the label on his bottle. I raised an eyebrow. "This not real enough for you?" He shrugged. "Nah, I mean like deeper stuff. You ever think about how people see you?" "Every day," I said, a little too quickly. I added a smile to take the edge off. "Occupational hazard of being out." Danny blinked. "Yeah, about that." Here we go, I thought. Another weird straight guy moment where he tries to say something supportive and fumbles into homophobia by accident. But instead, he said, "You ever wonder if people just decide who you are for you?" I didn't know how to answer that. "Yeah, sometimes." He nodded, like he was chewing on something heavy. Then, a little quieter. "I always say I'm straight. Like I've said it so many times, it feels automatic. But lately, I've been wondering if I even know what the hell that means." I felt my chest tighten. "Okay. I'm not hitting on you," he added quickly, raising both hands. I smirked. "Didn't say you were. It's just..." He paused, looking genuinely rattled. "There's this guy, the first follow on Instagram. Fitness dude. Real chill. Does those cooking videos too. And I don't know, man, I keep watching his stuff. Not for the recipes." I blinked. "You have a crush on a cooking influencer?" Danny groaned, dragging a hand down his face. "Shut up. I don't know what it is. I see him and my brain just goes weird. Like, it wants something I don't get. And then I think, dude, you're straight." And it's like my brain's just lying. The room fell quiet for a beat. The only sound was the low hum of the old ceiling fan above us and the occasional clink of our beer bottles on the table. "So what are you saying?" I asked. "I don't know. I think I'm confused." "That's allowed." Danny let out a long breath, like he'd been holding it for hours. "You ever try something just to see?" "Try what?" He looked at me, and his eyes weren't the usual joking ones. They were focused, a little scared. "Being with a guy? I mean, you knew, right? Like, early on?" I nodded. "Pretty much." He looked down again, tapping the bottle against his knee. "You ever think you could just tell if someone was down? Without talking about it?" I studied him for a second. "Are you asking if I think you're into guys?" He chuckled, embarrassed. "I guess. I said slowly, "You wouldn't be asking if you weren't at least curious." He didn't respond right away. just sat there, lips tight, like he was chewing on glass. Then he said, "I don't want to wake up at 50 and realize I've never figured myself out." I took a sip of my beer, mostly to keep my hands busy. My heart was thudding a little too hard. "So what do you want to do?" Danny hesitated. He set down his bottle. Then, slowly, as if his own body was betraying him, he slid off the couch and got down on his knees in front of me. I stared at him, stunned. "Danny, what are you doing?" He looked up at me, eyes clearer than I'd ever seen them. "One beer, right? One night. You said it's allowed to wonder." I swallowed hard, unsure if my body was about to explode or shut down entirely. He placed his hands on my thighs, just resting there. No pressure, just contact. "I don't know what I'm doing," he admitted, "but I think I need to know what this feels like." I could barely breathe. Part of me screamed to push him away, to keep some semblance of normalcy intact. But another, louder part of me, the part that had been simmering under the surface for months, maybe years, thrummed with anticipation. I'd known Danny was straight. Hell, I'd believed it so firmly that every fleeting glance, every accidental brush of his arm had been dismissed as nothing. But now, here he was, on his knees in front of me, wide-eyed and honest, his hand warm against my thigh. "Danny," I started, my voice caught somewhere between disbelief and curiosity. "Are you really sure about this?" He nodded, biting his lip, a nervous little tremble running through his jaw. "I don't know, I've never done this sober, never like this, but I want to." And just like that, the room shifted. The air got thicker, warmer. My heartbeat drowned out the soft hum of my apartment. I swallowed hard, trying to steady myself. "Okay," I said, "but we take it slow, no rush, we figure it out together." He exhaled sharply, almost like a sigh of relief, and looked up at me with those honest, searching eyes. "Slow? Right, yeah. I can do slow." His hands moved a fraction closer, tentatively, like he was testing the waters. I shifted in my chair, giving him space, and found my own hands tightening slightly on the armrests. There was no pretense here, no performance, just him and me in this raw, suspended moment of curiosity and desire. "I've thought about this," he admitted quietly, his voice low enough that only I could hear. Not seriously, just in passing. "But I've never been able to act on it. It's always been easier to pretend it doesn't exist. But tonight, I don't want to pretend anymore." I felt my chest tighten again. His confession, the vulnerability in his tone, made my own hesitation crumble. It wasn't just a tease or a drunk impulse. This was him, fully aware, fully present. "Then you won't regret it," I said, voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "We just see how it feels. That's all, no expectations." Danny swallowed and nodded, his eyes flicking to mine, then down again, almost shyly. Yeah, okay." He leaned forward slightly, hands now resting fully on my thighs. My breath hitched. My mind was screaming, warning me, urging me to stop, but my body betrayed me, responding in a way I couldn't control. For a long moment, we just stayed like that, suspended on the edge of something forbidden yet thrilling. I could feel the warmth radiating off him, the faint tremor of nerves in his fingers. The way he looked at me, uncertain, vulnerable, yet desperate, was intoxicating. Then, with a quiet courage that took my breath away, he whispered, "Teach me." And just like that, all the walls I had built around his straight persona crumbled. Because this wasn't just curiosity anymore. This was exploration. This was desire. And deep down, I had known all along that I had wanted this too, even if I'd buried it under reason, under logic, under his so-called straightness. Danny leaned in a fraction closer, eyes never leaving mine, and I reached down, letting my hand brush the side of his face. A shiver ran through him at the contact, and I knew he was ready, and for the first time, I allowed myself to forget the rules, forget the labels, forget the fear. Because right here, right now, none of that mattered. He had one beer in him, yes, and 1,000 doubts, but he was here, kneeling, vulnerable, ready to explore something new with me. And I couldn't resist. The first touch was tentative. His hand moved just slightly over mine, almost asking for permission, and I didn't hesitate. I guided his fingers, showing him how close he could get without rushing. Danny's breath hitched, and I felt it, right there in the pit of my stomach. The mix of nerves and raw excitement, the kind of energy that makes your skin tingle in places you didn't know could tingle. Like this, he whispered, voice barely audible. Yeah, I said, trying to keep my tone calm, even though my pulse was racing. Just like that. His eyes met mine, wide, questioning, and I saw it all there. Curiosity, apprehension, a tiny spark of boldness starting to flare. He was straight, or at least that's what everyone assumed. But in this moment, labels didn't matter. Only the connection, the electricity, the trust. He shifted closer, brushing his lips against my knee as if testing the waters. A shiver ran up my spine. His lips were soft, hesitant, but deliberate. I reached down slowly, letting my hands rest lightly on his shoulders, steadying him, letting him know he was safe. I've never, he murmured, trailing off. I know, I said, keeping my voice steady. And you don't have to. You're learning. We take it slow, no pressure. Danny nodded, eyes darting down, then back up at me. Slow, right, he whispered, almost like he needed to convince himself. His hands lingered, light and exploring, his knees brushing mine in a way that made my body heat up. Every movement was new, electric. The brush of his lips, the way he shifted closer with each tiny step, the way his fingers traced the line of my jeans, all of it sent my mind spinning. I realized I wasn't just guiding him. I was as caught up in this as he was. Every hesitation, every question, every glance he threw at me made my chest tighten. Danny, I started, my voice breaking just slightly. You're doing fine. Don't overthink it. He swallowed, letting out a shaky breath, and in that moment, I saw something I hadn't expected, a flash of vulnerability, raw and unguarded, that made my chest ache. He wasn't acting, wasn't pretending. He was here with me, willing to explore something new. Then he leaned closer, lips brushing against my thigh again. My hand moved up to the back of his neck, guiding him softly. I could feel the warmth radiating off him, the way his body responded, hesitant but hungry. His breathing hitched, and I realized how much he trusted me in that moment. I think I like this, he whispered, almost embarrassed. You don't have to be embarrassed, I said, keeping my tone soft. There's nothing wrong with liking this. Nothing at all. Danny's eyes met mine, wide, searching, and then, without a word, he let himself move just a little closer. The hesitation was gone, replaced by curiosity and desire. He was discovering himself in real time, and I was right there with him, guiding, steadying, sharing the thrill of that first exploration. It was intoxicating, watching him let go of his supposed straightness, if only for a night, letting me in. I could feel the tension in his body ease just slightly, his hands moving with more confidence, more intent. He was still shy, still careful, but the curiosity had turned into something much more primal, and I felt it too. The night stretched on, slow and deliberate. Every brush, every whispered word, every small exploration drew us closer, not just physically, but in a way that transcended labels, expectations, and fears. Danny, the guy who claimed he was straight, was kneeling before me, learning, exploring, discovering, and I was right there, matching him every step of the way. And that was the thing. It wasn't just about curiosity or a one-night thrill. Something deeper was happening, something unspoken, something electric, something neither of us had planned but couldn't resist. He had one beer in him, yes, but in that moment, all the alcohol in the world wouldn't have mattered. He was fully awake, fully present, and fully mine to explore this strange, intoxicating new connection. The room felt smaller now, thick with heat that had nothing to do with the beer. Every movement Danny made was deliberate yet tentative, like he was learning how to be somewhere he'd never been before, but wanted desperately to stay. I could feel the tremor in his hands, the hitch in his breath every time our bodies brushed. "Danny?" I whispered, leaning forward slightly. My hand rested gently at the base of his neck. "Look at me." He lifted his eyes slowly, wide and uncertain, and in them, I saw everything. Fear, curiosity, excitement, and a longing he hadn't yet admitted, even to himself. "You're okay," I said, voice soft, reassuring. "Nothing you do here is wrong. You're just exploring, that's all." He swallowed, nodding once. I've never been like this before. Not with anyone. Not sober. Not even close." "I know," I murmured. "And that's why we take it slow, one step at a time." Danny shifted slightly closer, his chest brushing against my thighs, and I could feel the warmth radiating off him. The closeness was electric, enough to make my heart race and my stomach coil. I'd imagined this moment in fleeting daydreams, wondering if the straight guy in question could ever cross that line. Now, here he was, not just crossing it, but kneeling in a way that left him exposed and vulnerable, and it thrilled me. He leaned forward again, brushing his lips against my leg in the softest, most hesitant way, like testing both me and himself. His hand moved upward slightly, fingers tracing the seam of my jeans, as if daring to go further without words. I exhaled slowly, reaching down to cradle the back of his head. "Danny, you don't have to do anything you're not ready for. Just let it feel good." A shiver ran through him. He tilted his head slightly, eyes closing, and whispered, "I want this. I don't know why, but I do." The vulnerability in his voice sent a jolt straight to my core. One beer in, yet he was awake in ways most people only ever dream of being. His body moved closer, seeking mine, and I responded instinctively, letting my hands guide him, steadying him, showing him that curiosity could be safe, even when it was terrifying. "Feels different," he murmured, voice low, a little shaky. "I wasn't expecting it to feel like this." "That's because it's new," I said. "You're discovering something about yourself, and that's okay. You don't have to label it yet, just feel it." Danny hesitated for a second, then leaned fully into me. The contact wasn't just physical anymore. It was something deeper. The shyness, the straight guy facade, the years of, "I'm straight, nothing else," all of that melted away under the weight of this moment. I could feel the tension in his body give way slightly, the tremor in his hands becoming more of a rhythm, a subtle dance of curiosity and consent. He explored, I guided. He whispered, I reassured. And in that exchange, something unspoken blossomed between us. Trust, desire, and the thrilling uncertainty of first-time discovery. "You're amazing," he breathed suddenly, eyes fluttering open. "I didn't think I'd feel this way." "You're not alone," I said softly. "We're figuring it out together." For a moment, the world outside didn't exist. The beer, the nerves, the late hour, they all faded into nothing. It was just us, suspended in a space charged with tension, curiosity, and something far more intimate than either of us had expected. Danny shifted again, pressing a little closer. His lips brushed my skin, tentative, teasing, asking permission without needing words. And I realized then that this was only the beginning. One beer had undone months, years of assumption, and I could feel that night stretching before us, a long, electric line of possibility. And I wanted it, all of it. The moment Danny leaned in closer, I felt the shift from tentative curiosity to something more urgent, but still careful. One beer, and yet every movement he made was deliberate, exploring, hungry in a way that made my own pulse spike. His hands slid over my thighs, testing boundaries, seeking permission with every touch. I guided him lightly, letting him know what felt right, what was safe, what was allowed. "You feel different than I imagined," he whispered, voice trembling slightly. I thought it'd be awkward. Weird. But it's not. I swallowed, keeping my tone steady. Not awkward. Not weird. Just new. And it's okay to like it. His lips brushed my leg again, and this time he lingered, searching, tasting, learning. I could feel the warmth radiating off him, the soft tremor of nerves mixed with anticipation. His hands moved higher, fingertips grazing in ways that made my breath hitch. I never thought I'd be doing this. Sober, he admitted, voice low, almost a whisper. Not with someone I like. You're doing perfectly, I said, voice soft, my hand resting at the base of his neck to steady him. You don't have to rush. Just feel it. That's all that matters. Danny nodded, leaning in, pressing closer. The way he moved, it wasn't just experimentation anymore. It was intent. Curiosity meshed with desire. One beer had loosened more than just his inhibitions. It had peeled back layers of self-restraint, of assumed straightness, revealing something honest and hungry beneath. Feels intense, he murmured, lips brushing against my thigh again. I didn't know it could feel like this. That's because it's new, I said. You're discovering something about yourself. Something you didn't let yourself explore before. He tilted his head up, eyes searching mine. I don't want it to stop. You don't have to, I whispered. It doesn't have to stop. You're safe. I'm here. Just let it happen. Slowly, confidently now, he leaned in further, lips pressing softly against me. The hesitation was gone, replaced by an eager, almost urgent curiosity. His hands roamed with more certainty, exploring, learning, connecting. Every brush of his lips, every shiver that ran through him, every soft gasp made my body respond in kind. I realized then that this wasn't just about curiosity anymore. This was desire, trust, and something intimate that went beyond labels. Danny, the guy who swore he was straight, was kneeling before me, exploring a new side of himself, and I was right there with him, guiding, sharing, igniting a connection neither of us could ignore. Danny, I whispered, my hand moving to cradle his jaw. You're incredible. His eyes fluttered open, gaze soft and searching. I feel like I've wanted this forever, he admitted, voice low. And now, I don't want to stop. And that's when I knew. One beer had changed everything. It had unlocked something inside him, something real, something raw. And in that moment, all I wanted was to explore it with him, slowly, carefully, fully, until we both understood what it meant to want each other, without fear, without pretense. Danny's lips pressed again, softer now, more deliberate. My hands guided, steadied, encouraged. His body trembled slightly against mine, a mix of nerves and excitement. He was learning, discovering, and I was right there, sharing every pulse, every gasp, every quiet moan. It was a night neither of us had expected, a night where boundaries blurred, hearts raced, and one simple beer unraveled the straight label he had worn like armor for too long. And I knew, without a doubt, this was only the beginning. By now, Danny wasn't just tentative. The hesitation that had defined the first touches had melted away under the heat of curiosity and desire. Every movement he made was more deliberate, more confident, yet still careful, like he was discovering a new part of himself and didn't want to ruin it. I could feel the shift immediately. The way he leaned in, the soft brush of his lips, the way his hands moved along my thighs. It was no longer just testing boundaries. He was learning, exploring, and, most importantly, enjoying it. Feels better than I expected, he murmured, voice low and trembling slightly. I didn't think it could feel like this. That's because it's new, I said, keeping my hand gentle at the back of his neck. You're allowed to feel it, to enjoy it, to want it. Danny's eyes met mine, wide, searching. I do want it. I think I've wanted it for a long time, even though I didn't know it. The confession made my chest tighten. There it was, the truth I had been waiting for, hiding behind layers of supposed straightness and bravado. He wasn't lying to himself anymore, not in this moment. He was present, vulnerable and open. He leaned closer, pressing his lips against me in a soft, tentative kiss. I guided him gently, letting him set the pace, showing him that he didn't have to rush. His body shivered slightly at every touch, a combination of nerves and desire, and I felt it too. This raw, unspoken connection that made the world outside disappear. "Danny, you're incredible," I whispered, voice low and steady. "You're doing perfectly." He shivered again, lips brushing against me, eyes half closed. "I've never felt anything like this," he admitted. "Not with a girl, not with anyone. Just this. It's different." "That's because it's real," I said softly. "You're exploring something you've been holding back, and you're allowed to enjoy it." He moved closer, hands now resting firmly on my thighs, as if testing limits and finding comfort in them. His lips pressed again, softer, more confident this time. The tremor in his body had become a rhythm, a subtle, intoxicating dance of discovery. I felt my own restraint slipping. One beer had opened the door, but now, watching him, guiding him, feeling him respond, I realized it was more than alcohol. It was desire, curiosity, and trust, all wrapped into one. "Danny," I breathed, hand cupping the side of his face. "You don't have to stop. I'm here. We go at your pace. All of it is yours to explore." His lips lifted into a small, shy smile against me, eyes bright. I like this. I like being here with you. Like this." I nodded, heart hammering. "Then, stay. Just stay. That's all I want." And he did, leaning in, pressing closer, exploring, learning, surrendering to the curiosity and desire that had been building for so long. One beer had undone everything he thought he knew about himself, and now, kneeling there, he was free to explore a side of himself that had been waiting patiently for this very night. The intensity between us grew, slow and deliberate, electric and tender. Every touch, every soft moan, every shiver was a revelation, not just for him, but for me. Watching Danny discover himself, letting go of the straight label he had worn like armor, was intoxicating. And in that moment, nothing else mattered but the connection, the trust, and the hunger that had been quietly building all along. This wasn't just experimentation anymore. This was desire. Mutual and undeniable, unfolding in real time, with every breath, every glance, every small, tentative movement drawing us closer. Danny had crossed a line he didn't know existed, and I was right there with him, ready to explore the unknown, one slow, electrifying moment at a time. By now, Danny's confidence had grown. The tremor in his hands and the hesitation in his movements had given way to something more deliberate, more aware. He wasn't just experimenting anymore. He was fully present, exploring, and responding with the kind of eagerness that made my chest tighten. He looked up at me, eyes bright, a little wild with curiosity and desire. I think I like this," he admitted, voice trembling slightly. "More than I thought I could." "You're allowed to," I whispered, guiding his hand gently. "This isn't about labels. It's about what feels good, what feels right. And this is real." Danny leaned closer, pressing his lips against me again, soft at first, then with more intent. I could feel the warmth radiating off him, the way his body pressed into mine, seeking contact, seeking reassurance. One beer had loosened his inhibitions, yes, but this was him, awake, aware, and fully choosing to be here. He shivered slightly as I adjusted his posture, hands tracing gentle lines along his back and shoulders. The trust in his gaze, the vulnerability in his movements, made my own restraint dissolve. I let my hands guide him, steadying, encouraging, exploring. Every brush of skin against skin, every soft gasp, every tentative moan drew us deeper into this shared moment of discovery. "I've never," he began, voice low and shaky, "I've never felt like this before, not with anyone." "Then feel it," I murmured, voice low, letting my fingers trace the line of his jaw. "Don't hold back. This is yours to explore, and I'm right here. Danny's lips met mine again, longer this time, more confident. His hands moved with intention, pressing closer, exploring, discovering. The air between us was thick with tension, electric with the thrill of something new and forbidden, yet completely natural. One beer had unlocked a side of him that had been dormant, waiting for permission, waiting for the right moment to surface. I guided him carefully, showing him that desire didn't have to be rushed, that it could be slow, deliberate, and thrilling all at once. His lips pressed again, softer now, more intimate, and I felt a rush of heat through my body. "You're amazing," he whispered, eyes glistening, lips brushing against mine. I didn't think I could want this." "You can?" I said softly. "You just didn't know how to let yourself." He shivered, pressing closer, and I could feel the tremor in his body settle into a rhythm, a steady, intoxicating pulse of curiosity and desire. Every touch, every soft murmur, every flicker of hesitation followed by intent drew us deeper. Danny's lips traced along my skin, exploring, testing, learning. I guided him, steadying, showing him the boundaries, letting him know he was safe. His eyes met mine again, wide and searching, and I could see the thrill, the vulnerability, the excitement, the pure intensity of someone discovering a new part of themselves. I don't want this to end," he whispered, voice low, urgent. "Then it doesn't have to," I murmured. "Not tonight, not ever, if you don't want it to. We go at your pace. All of it is yours." And in that moment, with the room heavy with desire, trust, and curiosity, Danny let go. One beer had been the key, the spark that shattered his straight guy facade, and now he was free, fully awake, fully present, fully exploring. We stayed like that, entwined, discovering each other, savoring every touch, every breath, every whispered word. The night stretched before us, full of possibility, full of desire, full of something neither of us could have predicted, but both of us had been waiting for without knowing it. And I knew, without a doubt, that this was only the beginning. By the time the night was over, everything had shifted. Danny wasn't just the straight guy I'd assumed for months. He was someone who had crossed a threshold, discovered a side of himself he'd ignored, and shared it with me. One beer had started it, but his choice, his trust, had carried it further. We collapsed on the couch, tangled together, breathing heavily. The warmth between us lingered, not just physical, but emotional, electric. For the first time, Danny looked at me, not with curiosity, not with hesitation, but with something raw, unguarded. "I didn't think I'd feel this way," he murmured, voice soft, almost afraid to speak it aloud. "I thought I was straight. I think I was lying to myself." "You weren't lying," I said, brushing a hand through his hair. "You just didn't know yet, and that's okay. You found out tonight, and that's what matters." He shifted closer, resting his head against my chest. "Feels weird, but good. Scary, but amazing. That's the first time I've ever heard someone describe themselves perfectly," I said with a small laugh. "It's supposed to feel like that. Intense, confusing, thrilling, and it's real." Danny let out a quiet laugh, a little breathless. "Yeah, real." He paused, then whispered, "Thank you for letting me." "No," I said softly, holding him close. "Thank you for trusting me, for letting go, for being honest, even when it scared you." We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped up in each other. The world outside ceased to exist. There were no labels, no expectations, just two people exploring a connection that had been waiting for the right moment to ignite. By the time we finally pulled away, just slightly, the room felt lighter. Danny's eyes met mine, brighter, more open, like someone seeing themselves for the first time. "So," he said quietly, a small, shy smile on his face, "does this mean I'm not straight?" I smiled back, brushing a finger across his jaw. Does it matter? You wanted to explore, you felt. You trusted yourself. That's what counts. He laughed softly, a little relieved, a little amazed. Yeah, I guess it doesn't. And in that moment, I realized that it never had to. One beer had started it, yes, but the real magic wasn't in the alcohol. It was in the courage to explore, to be honest, and to share that with someone who made you feel safe. Danny leaned in again, this time for a soft, lingering kiss, and I let him. No hesitation, no pretending, just trust, desire, and a newfound freedom. That night changed everything. One beer, one choice, one moment of vulnerability. It unraveled assumptions, shattered labels, and opened the door to something neither of us could have planned, but both of us had needed all along. And as we drifted off to sleep, tangled together on the couch, I knew this was only the beginning. For Danny, for me, for us.